Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode of the Rhetoric podcast, episode number 21. And joining us today, acclaimed musical guest, Miss Abysmal, talking about their new album, Mystery Dream. Miss Abysmal, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Let's start. So this was a great album. People who don't know Mystery Dream, you can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Spotify. A ton of fun to listen to. 9 songs on the album. Super fun, super enjoyable. Let's start with the persona, the Miss Abysmal person. The name Abysmal. I mean, it sounds extremely bad. I'm just curious, why Miss Abysmal? What is the name getting across to us?
Well, it comes from a poem I wrote a few years ago, and for me, it's kind of like a play on my feminine side and my dark side, and I think those two words are a weird juxtaposition within themselves.
So playing off that, what would be the preferred pronoun of Miss Abysmal?
I guess I identify as a he, but Miss Abysmal, I guess it's a female, yeah. I don't have a serious answer.
when you're performing, is there a persona that goes with the character? Is it something that you have to kind of psych yourself into character? Is it a persona that you adopt for performance? Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, totally. I think going off of what I said about like the feminine thing, like used to dress up in weird clothes and usually put on some sort of like face paint or makeup. Nothing like too crazy. But yeah, definitely try to like embody like a different character and get out of my normal human self.
Awesome. And okay, Miss Abysmal, before we start talking about your album, as you may know, we do have the Roses and Rhetoric music correspondent that we reached out to for this. And our correspondent actually wrote us a review for the album Mystery Dream. So I'd like to share that now and then get your take on it after and see if you think it's an accurate assessment or not. So Mystery Dream by Miss Abysmal. Notes: psychedelic, break beats, dream pop, synthy, dense lush sounds, hazy vibe, drone, industrial, beachy. Dream pop always reminds me of the beach or being near water. The review: Miss Abysmal is a solo project created by Tyler Kanata. The overall sound of Miss Abysmal is rooted in dream pop and psychedelia, seasoned with some dancey bass lines. In general, dream pop always reminds me of the beach or the rain. There is a certain white noise to the crashing waves, the humid breeze, or water splashing on the ground that is subdued yet enveloping. Those same sonic qualities are prevalent throughout the album, the second album by Miss Abysmal. Mystery Dream begins with the track I Walked Into the Sun. The listener is first met with a droning chant, soon followed by the break beat. The song then flares into hazy, lush vibe that will continue throughout the entirety of Mystery Dream. Miss Abysmal's vocals are soft and airy, creating a hallucinatory aura. The lyrics all over the album meander as one often does while asleep. This is especially evident on the track Dream Jungle. The use of the 5/4 time signature on Dream Jungle offers the feeling of strolling between thoughts with a pleasant ease. Then, when the time changes to 3/4, it feels as if one has stopped to ponder a specific thought. Before going back to strolling along again in 5/4, Junebug is hypnotizing with a sensual energy. The coda on Junebug then breaks into an almost lucid awakening. Mystery Dream ends with the song Tearing Down the Big Screen, which is the last grasp at trying to remember every detail before fading back into reality. For the best listening experience, I recommend putting Mystery Dream on around dusk. Sit outside or next to a big window, grab yourself a beverage of choice, watch the light fade, and let the sounds help you drift into the last third of the day. And that's the end of the review. Is that a sound like what you had intended for the album, or is that close to reality from your opinion?
That was really nice. Thank you to the writer of that. Yeah, I think it nailed it in a lot of ways. To quote and copy Joni Mitchell, I'm a water junkie. So all the water references are certainly there and is very much a part of who I am as a person. And I really liked the dusk thing, because that's when I'm really creative, and I probably wrote most of those songs around that time period. So that was pretty cool. I don't know if I've listened to it at dusk, so sounds great and fitting.
Very good. Yes, so again, and that was from our very own R&R official music correspondent. And I mean, this whole project this last week, listening to the album, getting familiar with it. We talked a little bit last week about the idea of listening to an album all the way through versus just one or two songs from the album. And for me, what stuck out to me from the album as a whole is that I tried to come up with 3 words that I thought really describe this album to me as a whole. And the 3 words that I came up with were mesmerizing, personal, and weightlessness. I felt all 3 of those things in essentially every song, but it's more so the song as a process from beginning to end. I don't know how you did it, but your song gave me the sensation of moving through something. I mean, it was incredible. Was that a feeling that you intended to create with your music, the sensation of weightlessness?
I don't think there's much like conscious things happening when you're creating music, at least for me. But it does deal with a lot of like ideas about dreams and a lot of weightless concepts themselves. So yeah, I could see how you feel that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about so I do want to get into flow states a little bit later in this episode, but for the sake of making this album, what does that, how does the order typically change in terms of how you put the tracks together? Like, do you always start with vocals, for example, and then switch to the guitars and the back track, or is it different? Do you have some sort of consistent model that you use, or can you just talk about how you prepare the songs?
Yeah. I think I'll always try and break whatever molds I have and try something new for whatever the newest song would be. My most typical formula would be guitar first, and then from there it just always changes as far as what comes next. But there's definitely, like, the first song on the record started actually with a drum beat, so it's just the same drums throughout the whole song, and I just recorded 4 minutes of drums, and everything followed after that. And then there's some songs, like, I'll specifically want to write in a, like, Dream Jungle, I wanted to write in a 5/4 time signature, and that was conscious, whereas The Wishing Tower is also in 5/4. That was like not conscious. I just happened to write it in 5/4. But yeah, always changing up the order and keeping it fresh.
I definitely wanted to talk just really quickly also about the album and the cover art. It's you holding an orange or an apple, and you just have it in the background out behind Joe. Where was that picture taken? What was the kind of the inspiration or meaning behind it? And maybe a shout out to the photographer as well.
Yeah, that's super fun to talk about this because I'm involved in so much of everything that goes into a record. So it's a Tangelo from my mom's tree in her backyard that I'm holding. And this is taken out in Milagrosa, which is a hiking area in Tucson. And it's about like a 40-minute hike to get there. And actually, like, behind me, there's like a 50-foot drop. And there's a huge pool of water down there that you can jump into. But the photographers that I worked with were Frankie Carino and his partner Charlotte. And I actually used one of his pieces on the first record, and for this one I wanted to work with him again. I've always admired his work, and we actually approached it from scratch and conceptualized album art I like and ideas, and then location scouting. I came up with the spot, and then we hiked out like all this huge we hiked out this crazy flash out there. Like I filled up a 70-liter pack full of camera gear and clothes and outfits and stuff, and it was a lot of fun shooting out there.
That sounds like quite the experience. I have been backpacking a couple of times. I'm not very good at it. I'm glad that people do enjoy that, and I would assume the nice thing about doing kind of your own thing is that it might be harder to convince a big producer to let their talent stand over the edge of a crevasse without a tie off or something. So I mean, this is all the benefits of independent art collaboration is taking risks, as evidenced by the cover art itself.
Totally.
Very good. Well, Joe, I am looking at our phone lines, and we actually have a couple of callers. So why don't we take a call? Miss Abysmal, just so you know how it works, sometimes we take calls on the program. People ask about comments on the show, kind of open anything. So let's see what our first caller has in store for us. All right, caller, you are on the air. Let us know where you're from and who you are.
Hi. Glad to finally be on the show. I've called a few times over the past couple of weeks. Never gotten to me, so I'm glad to be on. My name is Gerald. I'm from Lorain, Ohio, and I've been an avid listener now for about 4 or 5 months. So thank you, Roses and Rhetoric, for having me on.
Absolutely. Happy to have you. Sounds like you're a long time, first time. Sometimes our lines get a little busy. You can't get all the callers on the show, but thank you for your patience.
It's what my mom always tells me. Just be persistent and never give up. So thank you.
Very good. What's your call today?
I got a big question. My roommate and I are obviously big listeners of the show, big fans. And earlier episode, you focused a lot on hygiene. And I think in this time, that's very important. Can you discuss the merits of the bath? And why haven't you made a stronger push for bathing, given its superiority over showering? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll go and take your answer off the air. Thank you so much for calling in. Joe, we talk about bathing a lot on this program. One of our early topics on Roses and Rhetoric, proper shower technique. Any of our people who are listening to the show for the first time, that's posted on the blog. Be sure to check it out. We came up with what I think is a pretty comprehensive system for showering in a proper order, in such that you actually come out of the shower with more self-esteem. But the caller makes a good point. Joe, and of course we'll go to Miss Abysmal as well. Bathing versus showering. Let's talk about the pros and cons among the group. Joe, go ahead and start us off.
Well, personally, I'm all about the shower. I think that the bathing should be reserved for maybe a quarterly or maybe a weekly activity to do, mainly from the water conservation standpoint. And it's also, whenever I take a bath, I almost feel more dirty when I come out of the bath than when I went in.
Yeah,
so for me, I'm a strong shower advocate from that perspective.
Miss Abysmal.
Joe, do you feel like you're sitting in a tepid pool of your own filth?
Yes, but an interesting point is that I heard that if you add some sort of bubbles to the bath, it actually keeps the tepid filth at a warmer temperature. So it's more like a warm bath of your own filth. I think it has something to do with the heat transfer at the surface. So I don't know. Maybe once I start adding the bubbles to my bath, I might change my opinion. But as of now, that's where I stand.
Miss Abysmal, what are your thoughts on this?
For me, it's a seasonal thing. I would say baths, which I'm certainly with Joe in that I don't think baths are a daily necessity, but definitely a special occasion sort of thing. But for me, they're almost crucial if you're living in a cold environment in the winter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I can understand where the caller is coming from, because in a way, all of us after a long day, it is nice to be able to sit down in a bathtub. Now, the problem with the bath is that you have your butthole in it. I mean, let's just use the word, right? I mean, it's your butthole in water, and that's what it is. That's a mathematical definition. There's no way to escape it, right? Now, I have found that if I'm feeling pretty cold and I want to take a nice warm bath, what I will do is I will shower before the bath. Now, people say that's excessive, that's too much water. Hush, it's my house, or in this case, an apartment. But I think really it's all about being comfortable. I want to talk really quickly about what Joe's talking about with the heat transfer at the surface with regards to bubbles and showers and bathing. And this is the diagram I came up with just now. What happens is without bubbles, the water is in a sense it is evaporating from the surface, and that process carries with it a lot of heat, and the bubbles creating a little film above it will prevent that water from evaporating, thus preventing the evaporative heat transfer. So if anybody is going to be taking a bath over the next few months, it means February is still pretty cold. You want to keep the water as warm as possible. Be sure to put bubbles in it. It'll help the water from evaporating, keeping the temperature a little bit warmer. All good points from the caller, and that was Gerald from Ohio. We appreciate your call. So let's move on now to some specifics inside of the album, inside of Mystery Dream. Again, people are talking about Mystery Dream from Miss Abysmal. Find it on Spotify, find it on Amazon. Joe, what was your favorite song from the album?
My favorite song was Dream Jungle. And it was like our music correspondent said, I like the time signature changes in it. I like the strolling vibe of it. That song was the song that stuck out to me the most on the album. It felt like a just slightly different style than the rest of it, but it's a good song with just smooth listening, and just something that I was able to listen on repeat for a while. What was I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, Miss Abysmal, but what was some of the motivation for that song, or what was going through your mind when you made that?
That was the first song I wrote for the record. I was intentionally wanting to do something in a weird time signature. I was actually kind of studying what is it? The River, just a song by King Gizzard. Great track in 5/4. And then 15 Step, Radiohead. Those were two tracks I was kind of just listening to a lot to get that time signature in my head. But lyrically, it's actually about someone that I was with at the time, dating at the time, and basically that person would have very, very vivid, lucid dreams, and I would I don't really remember my dreams, so it's kind of taking a lot of the imagery that person was having and sharing with me, and thinking that we're dreaming together and that I'm not remembering them, and but we're still dreaming together. Yeah.
That you saying that makes me want to. Have you ever tried well, first of all, do you end up listening to your own tracks at any frequency, or your own albums rather?
Not once I finish them, I don't listen to them really too much. But the whole process of making it and mixing it, writing it, I end up listening to it a lot.
Yeah, sure. I kind of now that you mention that, I kind of want to try playing it while I go to sleep. While I'm sleeping, just put it on repeat at a low volume and see if it helps me get some lucid dreaming action going.
Let me know how that goes.
Let me go to my favorite song, but before we do that, we have a quick commercial break. Guys, bear with me real quick. We have a quick word from our sponsor for today's episode, Reflectotron. Joe, Miss Abysmal, COVID vaccines are underway. Air travel, hopefully, will be returning soon. We'll be traveling again. But one part of traveling I'm not looking forward to is that middle seat on the airplane. What is that? No window, no leg room, armrest 50-50. What are we doing? Now, we're in the middle seat and you can't look out either window without turning your head. And you can't do that forever because, of course, your neck will start to get sore. You know this, I know this. We've all been there before. We're all been through this kind of, my neck hurts. We've all been there. Okay. The smart people at R&B, which is an R&R affiliate, came up with a solution to the middle seat that they're calling Reflectotron. Now try and imagine this. It's a reflective device you put on your food tray to look out of either window, either the one to your immediate left or immediate right, or across the aisle out of that window. It sits on your food tray, you move it back and forth, boom, you can see out the window. How do they do this? It's all patent pending technology, all high-tech stuff, space age, all the whole 9 yards. They're ramping up production now, but they have given us, R&R, a select few prototypes that are suitable for distribution. You can buy now, and if you want one, contact us after the show. Happy to send one your way. Right now, they're about $100 a piece. Get them while they last. And that was, of course, Reflectotron. And really, that's a great product. Definitely serves a purpose. Get your hands on one today. Contesting after the show, we'll get one over to you. My favorite song on the album, Miss Abysmal, my favorite song was Wishing Tower. I love the Wishing Tower. I love the whole album, but I really love the Wishing Tower. Tell us a little bit about Wishing Tower. Then I have a couple of specific questions about the lyrics of that song I wanted to run by you with regards to meaning.
Y'all like the 5/4 tracks. I'm sensing a theme. That one, man, I don't even remember. I just wrote it. I had this like old, like shitty Japanese guitar. It's like really old and really crappy. And it just kind of, it's like one of those instruments where it almost does a lot of the work for you. There's a certain way you play that guitar. And yeah, that's where, and then I just kind of loaded it with a bunch of, there's a couple of effects that make it sound like a steel drum.
Yes.
That's kind of like the vibe I'm going for on that. Like an octave shifter and a chorus pedal. Yeah, it's that guitar running through just like a couple cool guitar pedals to make it sound weird.
I thought it was great. I loved, so obviously my favorite song, I love the whole thing, but I really love the first line, envisioning the hour from the wishing tower, how? And the way that you make that a whole line kind of fit in the song was just so catchy to me. It was really, really something. Talk a little bit about the opening lines, take a breath, kiss of death, and then again, envisioning the hour from the wishing tower, how? You end with a question. What question are you asking in those first couple lines?
So the lyrics are really crazy for this one. The song was called Sephora for a while, and it was like I was working at a plant nursery at the time, and there's this tree, it's the Texas mountain laurel, the botanical is Sephora secundiflora, and they grow really slowly. And I had this amazing one in this house I grew up in that was like 70 years old or something, and the blooms smell like grape bubble gum, and then it produces these like beans. It's a little while to explain how much depth I put into this, but like it produces these seed pods with these red beans inside of them. And I basically started researching this plant and its like seeds, and they used to be used by indigenous peoples as a crazy psychedelic drug. And then I think some people have actually tried doing it in modern times and died from it. So that's what the kiss of death line is referring to. I don't know if I should keep going or if you have more questions.
No, go ahead, because they're all about the lyrics, so keep on going. Yeah.
So more or less, I'm imagining like myself 1,000 years ago with indigenous peoples in a ceremony taking these beans, but also like linking that to my childhood a little bit, and like the fact that I had one of those in my backyard.
And so is the wishing tower this like higher state of mind that you would achieve by virtue of the taking a psychedelic?
I guess so. I actually didn't even think of that.
Oh. I'm happy for that EP credit whenever you're ready. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so the other one I like, peering through a red balloon, my necklace moves inside her womb. Break that one down a little bit for us.
Yeah. The red balloon is the red seed,
Okay.
which is what you use in that ceremony. And I was thinking it'd be cool to actually go knock on like my front door of this house I grew up in and ask the people if I could have some seeds, and I was gonna like make a necklace out of them.
Okay.
I don't know why I thought of that. I just thought it'd be a cool way to like carry my childhood with me. Yeah, and I think I looked up red balloons because that's like there's imagery there, like there's that like Goldfinger song or something. I don't know, there's symbolism behind that.
Right. 99 looped off balloons. Yeah, absolutely. Which is another great, obviously way different style than what you're writing, but another great, pop song, if you will, that is super catchy and is in one of my favorite movies, which is The Watchmen. So fun little tie over there for us. Couple more for you. Tell us a little bit about Sephora. So in the lyric I have is you mentioned this person's name kind of over and over again. This idea of praying to Sephora. Tell us a little bit about Sephora, a little bit more about that character.
Yeah, well, Sephora is the Latin name of the tree itself.
Right.
It's Sephora secundiflora. Yeah, it just basically like recognizing that the plant itself is so old and wise and older than me and older than a lot of people and has seen so much. And then the fact that it creates seeds that have some sort of medicinal or deathly toxic quality to them. Basically seeing the plant as being like intelligent to some extent and something that needs like respect or attention.
Absolutely. And that ties in. I think if I'm kind of following how the song's creating itself, and I think the last one is the last two lines of the song: bubblegum blossoms rot into fossils, all is colossal, the Sphinx Moth prophet. Write that one down for us.
That's good. I hit on the grape bubblegum or whatever already, right?
Right.
Let's see. So the Sphinx moth is another thing I kind of got obsessed with when I was working at this nursery. I just like learned a lot about plants, especially the ones that are in the Sonoran Desert. And the Sphinx moth is this. So every fig tree, there's like 1,000 types of like ficus or fig trees, and they each have a specific moth that pollinates it. It's really specific. And the Sphinx moth, I guess that was irrelevant about the fig trees, but Sphinx moth has this insanely long like tongue thing that it like it's this really long thing, and it is one of the few like insects, if not one of the only, that can pollinate like cactus flowers, because they're so big, those huge flowers, and it's the only thing that can actually get its tongue in there deep enough. So I guess just like, just got really into the Sphinx moth, and there's something magical about it that I wanted to pay homage to or mention.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, there is, this, I don't know. It's fun to contemplate how things can evolve together. So like you're talking about the Sphinx moth and how its long tongue and the cactus flower, how, these two species that at one point, maybe had nothing to do with each other, it somehow converged into this symbiosis together. I mean, it's kind of a fun thing to think about as these things kind of come about in this natural way, and then you end up with this kind of beautiful balance in, between two different living things.
Totally. That's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I had other songs in here I liked as well. I mean, honestly, they all had their different feel, but definitely a very nice theme running through all of them. But for me, the Wishing Tower was my favorite song. But I also would be remiss to not mention the beginning of the opening song, Walk Into the Sun, or I Walk Into the Sun, has such a catchy opening. Just talk a little bit about that, and then we have another call afterwards.
Yeah, that was really fun to make. I actually didn't have that opening sequence until I was mixing the record, which is really fun. And that's kind of where I'm like compiling all these songs I've recorded over a year and like making them cohesive. But I was like mixing one of my songs, and when I'm doing that, I'm kind of like trimming all the stuff between vocals and thing. I was trimming something, and I remember hearing this like, I called it a clown horn. That's what I called the audio file, but it was sounded like an ice cream truck like driving by my house. Some like weird, it sounded like a clown riding his bicycle by my house. And I ended up like cutting that up and sampling that. And it kind of, it's like this weird noise that comes in a couple times in the intro and throughout the song. It's like this wow wow.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't know what you're talking about.
And then the other part is like another result of mixing and trimming, and finding these weird like mess ups. And it was basically and I do this a lot actually. It was me, I think it was the part from the end of the song, those drums, and I was chopping them up and trimming the fat. And there's a part of me dropping my drumstick, and that's the like weird sound you're hearing.
Yeah, right.
And so yeah, just kind of like accentuating like what is a total mess up in a take, and making it into this cool thing. And then there's a vocal like kind of like shrilly thing that I do, and that was yeah, man, that was influenced by a friend's dream, not the one I mentioned earlier, but someone else. And it was I seem to like pop into people's dreamscapes occasionally, and they'll tell me about their dreams. And that one, the dream they were telling me about sounded exactly like Eyes Wide Shut. Is that it?
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick.
We were talking about that movie last episode. Tyler, are you on your dreamscape? Get out of here. All right, buddy, that's the show. We have no. Go ahead. This is we're talking about Eyes Wide Shut. Yeah, we were talking about that show last week, so it's fortuitous that you bring it up now on this episode. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think those like vocal, like harmony, weird shrilly things were supposed to capture that feeling of some sort of weird pagan sex cult dungeon thing.
All of which are prominent themes in Kubrick's, in my opinion, Kubrick's best film. Moving on, we have another call. We're getting on the lines real quick. So again, call us where they come from, and we are getting them in the room. Let's see who we have. Caller, you were on the air. Tell us your name and where you are from. Oh, getting it. Waiting for the audio to connect. While we're waiting for that, again, the album we're talking about, Mystery Dream, available on Spotify and Amazon. We're talking with Miss Abysmal, the creator of the album, which is a great piece. Other albums are also available on those platforms as well. And I've had a lot of fun talking to the artist about that song. So be sure to check it out. Mystery Dream is the album. Artist name, Miss Abysmal. Caller, are you there?
Well, that caller comes in. I do want to circle back to Eyes Wide Shut again.
Sure.
Because I know, as a lot of our viewers have been talking, I did make some unfounded claims that movie is the movie that ultimately ended or led to the demise of Stanley Kubrick's career. Miss Abysmal, I know that you have some education in film. Do you have any insights on that? I understand that to be Kubrick's last film, and I guess the theory that I heard is that he exposed a lot of different things that some people might not wanted to have been exposed, and that may have led to his demise.
Ooh, I haven't heard about this, but it sounds like a good YouTube hole to go down for sure.
And I think we might have just gotten the caller on. Caller, are you on? Can you hear us? You know what I love, Joe? I love great radio. I love that.
We really need to fire our sound engineer at this point.
We are going to, I think I can try one thing real quick. Let's see if, caller, can you hear us? and I don't think that they can. This is a kind of a bummer. Give us 1 second, folks. Joe, tell us again about the album. We'll get this figured out real quick.
Well, I can talk about the album cover behind me.
Oh wait,
There we go.
there, caller, you're
Caller.
on the air. Very good. Tell us your name, where you're from, and what your question is.
Hi, so my name is Kelly. I am from Orange County, California. Wow, I'm just so excited to be on your show. And before I say anything, can I give a couple of shout outs? Is that allowed?
Yes, make it quick.
I want to give a couple of shout outs to two of my girlfriends, Hannah and Chloe. I know you're listening right now. Hi. Anyways, I can't believe it.
What's your question?
Well, okay. I have a question for Miss Abysmal. I was just wondering, I wanted to let you know that I think you're extremely talented. I love your music. I love the message and energy that your music brings. And when are you guys going on tour next? And can I get a free t-shirt?
Right, very good. And they'll be taking their call off the air. Very good. Miss Abysmal, any tour dates, merchandise, that kind of thing? Let us know.
I got no tour. I don't think anyone has any tour dates right now. And merch is pretty limited. But I've thought of the perfect merch item, and I think it's gonna be lighters.
Very good. And when you say lighters, flashlights or the kind that you use for lighting a candle at night? What kind of light are we talking about?
Yeah, like long handle Bic lighters or the Bic and Flicks.
We'll have the full spectrum, Zippos, Bics, barbecue lighters, all of it.
My only request, if you do make a lighter, either like my permanent co-host is saying, make it the nice long one, because nobody hands those out. I mean, really, it would stand apart. You know what I mean? If you're handing out these, foot long lighters, or make it those windproof ones. Those, the blowtorch.
Ooh, yeah.
Do some well.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise you have this little pussy flame. It's kind of nothing. You can't light anything with that. My gosh, it's just gonna hurt you. Make it one of those windproof ones. That way people can really, do some damage with those things. I always like the windproof lighters myself. Joe, how about Joe? Your thoughts on lighters?
Yeah, I mean, no one wants a lighter that you can't use, so I'm all about the windproof.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, unfortunately, no tour dates. But is touring something that you're hoping to put in your repertoire moving forward?
That'd be fantastic. The difficult thing is, aside from the status quo, I don't have a band at the moment, which I used to a few years ago. But yeah, it would require assembling a whole group of people, and I don't know if anyone's been in a band. It's a lot of work. It's like being married.
Is it like having a radio show with a charming co-host?
100%.
100%. Very good.
Try 3 co-hosts.
3, but are they all charming? That's really the question. No, I am so clearly. All right, let me not clearly. You made this entire album by yourself. I mean, to me that just seems like an impossible feat. I mean, could you just? We have a couple of questions that are a little more broad, but before we get onto those, I want to just spend a little bit of time talking about the musical process itself. I mean, what is it? To me, it seems like you have different layers of music, right? So you have the percussion layer, then you have the vocal layer, then you have, in your case, all these interesting sound effects. I'm just wondering, in your head, are you hearing it all at once, or do you hear one layer and then you add another? What is the creative process versus the engineering process that gives you a song at the end?
Yeah, I think it's always different. I can't say I'm like a genius that hears an entire song in my head, and when I do, it usually it's really hard to translate that. So usually like working from one part to the other, and then the more I'm working on it, the more I actually do start hearing all the parts together. Yeah, what was the other part of that?
No, that was basically it. I was just curious, to me, it seems very hard to kind of layer different musical elements together. And I guess, you must have some kind of ear for that or something, because it just seems like where would you begin with such a feat? It just seems like an impossible task almost, because you're having to
Yeah.
write all this music that works together, and that seems really challenging to me.
Yeah, I usually do it as I go. I don't usually like have it all. I just kind of start, and then it's a lot of like decisions, like making decisions and sticking with them as far as like when something's going to happen or how long something's going to go on for. And yeah, the computer's a pretty amazing tool, and it's pretty easy to like kind of move things around and do it all by yourself. It is possible.
Well, that's
Yeah,
definitely I was just going to say that's definitely a topic that we talk about on the show, is technology enabling these pursuits, and now I think that's a nice nice launch point to kind of a broader discussion about kind of some more meta topics. So why don't you open us up with that discussion a little bit?
Sure. So just talking about creativity and flow states in general, there are a couple phrases that have been stuck in my mind recently. One of them is channeling the muse, which is, to me, means that it's not really me that's creating the art, or in this case, the artist that's creating the art. The artist is more acting as an antenna to filter in something from somewhere else that ends up creating something. And I want to know if you share that experience as you create your art, as well as another term that sticks in my mind, which is letting things engineer themselves. And that plays with it in the same way, in the sense that I'm not really doing anything when I create something, or at least when I create something good, I'm not really doing anything. And it's almost the better the art, the less effort that's put into it. Because in essence, things essentially engineer themselves. Do you share that experience as you create things? And a second part to that question would be, can you talk a little bit about flow states? I know you have some experience in that area.
Yeah. I certainly agree with like the muse thing. But it's not always like that. And I think what you nailed it, where it's like usually the best things happen pretty quickly, and it's like it's not you that's doing it. It's just coming through you. But yeah, something like, we were talking about Dream Jungle earlier. That is like that song's the opposite of that. That's like literally studying other songs and purposefully trying to write something in a certain way. I'm trying to think of like a song on the record, but yeah, there's definitely other ones that were more flowy, but there's also a really analytical approach I can take sometimes. So I do both.
Building off the theme of creativity, what kind of environments do you find that you're most creative in? Or is there a place that you go to? Is there a mindset that you try to put yourself in? Maybe like a drink or something. I light a candle with your windproof lighter that you're going to be selling out later on. What do you do to create in a creative environment, or to put yourself in a creative environment?
Yeah, that's kind of funny you said that, because I'm in my ideal creative environment right now, actually. I tend to be pretty like seasonal. I really like working in the wintertime. So right now I'm in a cabin in the mountains in New Mexico. There's nothing, like the nearest grocery store is an hour away. There's just nothing going on out here, and it's really cold outside. And so you don't even really want to be outside for very long. Yeah. And I just have the computer's pretty stuck right here, but just surrounded in a huge circle with all my instruments and drinks. Coffee's great. Kombucha's good. Crack a beer when the sun goes down. Yeah, anything really.
Okay, I'd like to follow up with another question on inspiration. I know that this is a tough question to answer a lot of times, but could you name maybe 3 or 4 or a couple musical inspirations, or I guess they don't even have to be musical, but any like 3 artists that you draw a lot of inspiration from for your work? I know that you mentioned people like Joni Mitchell, you mentioned King Gizzard and Radiohead. I'd be interested to hear what other ones are in that repertoire.
Always Beatles. That's like pretty default. Every musician will give you that one. Especially when I'm recording. I tend to listen to quite a bit of Beatles stuff. It just hits on every level. Like if I want, like emotional, like real feelsy shit, I'll listen to, like the George Harrison tracks are really good. If I want like crazy, just genius stuff, like and amazing lyrics, like Lennon stuff, and I don't fuck with Paul McCartney too much, to be honest. But let me think of some other ones.
What about Ringo?
Was Ringo just holding it down, keeping it simple. Great drum inspiration. Don't overdo it. Keep it simple. Yeah, I've actually been listening to this podcast, Hanging with Audiophiles, in addition to Roses and Rhetoric. But it's a podcast by Jamie Lydell, and that's been really like inspiring us from a production and engineering standpoint, like cool miking strategies and stuff like that, and just weird shit you do in a studio. Particularly like Sean Everett is a producer I'm getting really into. Even before this, was listening to like Sound and Color by the Alabama Shakes, and the just production's insane on that one. It's just like, and that's not really like my type of music, but the way he produced it was really, really cool.
What about the way he produced it was of interest to you?
He does basically the most like unconventional, crazy techniques, placing microphones in weird places, like recording the drums with like, iPod earphone, shittier ones than this, like the old ones, using those as microphones, weird binaural head microphones. Yeah, when you actually start like check out that record, like start listening for the details, like it was like you can literally hear like the pedal on the piano like still going, and like you can hear all this like janky shit going on in the background. That's it's really charming.
I like that. One of the things that I've tried to do, had a few friends that are very much film enthusiasts, and have made an effort, or I made it an effort to listen to them when they talk about some of the more production side things, camera techniques, that kind of thing, the actual like the physical things you do to capture the audio and the visual, and what a difference that makes. I remember the first time that I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey, when in the 70 millimeter film, and just how it truly was a different experience than what I had seen before. It looked different. It was a very enjoyable experience in an art house theater. And so to hear you talk about the production side for music, that to me makes a lot of sense. And is that, as you've begun making your own music, do you find yourself listening to songs that you listened to in the past, and hearing things differently, or getting something different out of it now that you're in that creative mode yourself?
Totally. I think it happened like really recently, like in the past 6 months. I'm almost at the point where when I hear a song, I know how they did everything, like, and what the instruments are, and I can tell exactly like that was that synth or that keyboard, and they mic'd it a certain way or something, and that's like a real quest, or like just trying to discover, like, I really like a sound, how did they do it, and like just digging on the internet for interviews, or like even just like photos of people like in the studio, and you're like looking in the background like, what is that thing? Yeah, so really like studying that a lot, and now like my ears are really, really trained for that shit.
Yeah, very nice. I wanted to ask a couple of questions. Joe, I'll give you a chance if you have one to follow up with that.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to talk a little bit about music as business and kind of music as entrepreneurship, and to kind of open it up with maybe kind of a simple question. Talk a little bit about what goes into marketing an album, what goes into selling an album. You've recorded it, you have your product. What are for anybody who's listening that wants to make music a way that they make money? You have this product. What do you then do to get it into the marketplace?
Dude, I don't know. I have the exact same question, because I know how to like real get it out there. Like I know how to like print the CDs and I know how to get it on Spotify and all that stuff. And then from there, beats, I really don't know, and I'd really would love to know. And it's not something I feel particularly passionate about. Like becoming a market savvy. I'm an artist, really.
I think that the Roses and Rhetoric podcast is an excellent place to get the word out there for the album itself. And I understand that it's not an artist's priority to also be a marketeer or someone that markets their product. Just philosophically, do you feel any opposition to aggressive marketing on a product like this or towards your art?
Oh man. I'm pretty removed, and I almost don't feel like qualified to answer that question. Like I'm a really good ad blocker. I have no recommended videos on YouTube. I don't use social media. I just and I live out in the middle of this cabin in the middle of nowhere, so I get like very little advertising and marketing. I understand the reasoning for it, and like I would want that for myself. I wouldn't want to be the one doing it per se, but I guess that's how at the end of the day, it's just like trying to get art and let it reach people and like reach a wider audience is like really important. And it seems like a really liberating and really confusing time for that right now. I think like there's going to be a disruptor for the music industry. Netflix, Uber, like something's gotta give and like change things. It just kind of hasn't happened yet.
I would be interested to know what your thoughts are on using an app like we're using now, but for performing live. That it seems, so my dad, other parents, they all have these stories of, seeing these famous bands and like all these like obscure concerts, like all these like random venues. And it seems to me that with the advent of, decently high quality audio visual apps, that it ought to be easier to reach live music. Is that something that you've considered doing as a band, using an app like Clubhouse, using an app like, Facebook Live or anything like that, a YouTube live stream for performing? And on that note, what is your link, or what do you see as the playoff between live performance versus recording music and selling it as a finished product?
Yeah, for some reason, something about like the whole live streaming thing I've never really watched a live stream. It doesn't really interest me very much. I do watch like now there's a lot like those KEXP videos on YouTube. Bands in the studio and they film them, which is like a really nice way to document a live performance. I like those, but I don't feel a need to like watch them at a certain time.
Right.
And like and live music has like a really special atmosphere and energy, and there's something like undescribably powerful about it that can happen to people through it. I mean, it's literally like there's sound vibrations going through the air and in a room or area shared by a lot of people, and you just get like
you're touching
potentially
them, right? Yeah, like you're
exactly.
You're touching. Yeah.
So there's something, there's so much to it that's just not I don't think translates well, but I think a lot of people are taking good advantage of it, and probably a lot of people are enjoying it, but I'm not a part of either of those parties.
I think that's definitely something that the world is lacking right now, is that in-person musical performance, the crowd aspect. And I hope it comes back soon. Yeah, dancing. I mean, yeah, I doubt that anyone within a couple 100-mile radius of me has danced in a group larger than 5 people in the past year. So I hope that all comes back. And I hope it comes back soon for that reason.
I do as well. And I guess this might seem like a funny question given what we just talked about, but have you ever, one of the things that we talk about on this podcast all the time is an author named Peter Thiel, who's very big in startups and this idea of innovation and capitalism and starting companies. And as I was listening to your music, I was just thinking, really, I mean, a band is a startup. I I mean, that's what it is. It's a small group of people with a unified vision working together to make a product. And I'm just curious, did you ever think of your band, or even as an individual performer, did you ever think of your artistic endeavor from a business point of view, in the sense that you're making a product to satisfy a demand in the consumer base?
So like picking the name was actually really important to me.
Sure.
And something I put a lot of thought into, and like because I'd played in a band before with like the name was a pun, and we always had to explain the pun to people. And so I specifically chose the name. I mean, I already told like, I guess the meaning or like where it came from, but there's like another layer to it, where like a practical, logical layer, where I can verbally articulate to you like Miss Abysmal, and you got it. Like, and I've tried Googling it, like you fuck it up and spell it wrong, or like do an MS or something, and it'll still work. So from that perspective, I was like and there was no other Miss Abysmal. So just being really like specific about, if I meet someone on the street, can I tell them what like my passion project is verbally, and that's it? And they can Google it and it's not contending with other things, or so that was pretty businessy for me.
Absolutely. That's actually, I think, very cogent of exactly the kind of thing that people should do when they're starting this. And actually, it's funny you talk about naming. That's actually one of the things that Peter Thiel talks about quite a bit, is the importance of a name in a company. I know Joe and I, Rose's Rhetoric, we came up with that name together on the phone one night, and just immediately kind of liked it, and like, all right, we got to Google it. Does anybody else have it? And it's like, no. It's like, all right, perfect, got to get it. And I mean, it's fun. It's like the first thing that you create. I had a couple more questions, Joe, but I wanted to give it over to you for a chance to ask something you might have yourself.
Well, I think we need to jump into the public service announcement that
yes.
the Rhetoric program has for today.
Yes. Tell us about
before we turn your questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jim, I know that you were in a snowstorm in Houston last week, right? Correct?
Yep, absolutely.
So I was in a snowstorm in Portland as well, and I think that one thing we can all agree on is the importance of extra batteries around the house. Like, I'm talking AA's, AAA's, D cells, even the 9-volt. I was using a stud finder the other day. I needed a 9-volt, and I didn't have one, so I couldn't hang when I needed to hang.
Yep.
But for that reason, I mean, it's good to have some extra packs around, and more importantly, make sure you know where those packs are. No one wants to be stuck opening every cabinet in the pantry looking for these things. So I suggest just picking a drawer, defining that as your battery drawer, and keep all your batteries in one place. And this is a habit we can start teaching our kids, maybe even as early as high school. Every student should have an extra pack of AAA's in their backpack, just in case the batteries in the TI-89 run out right before a math exam or an engineering exam or whatever you have. Yeah, as I'm sure you do, Jim.
Absolutely.
We really can't have too many batteries on hand. In the event of a global financial collapse, it's even conceivable that batteries become a form of currency. So now, although that's pure speculation, but that shouldn't prevent us from taking it seriously. Batteries could one day be money. So everyone, I want you all to go out and buy some batteries. Make sure you're well stocked. And
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I'd like to turn it back to you, Jim. I think you had some follow-up questions.
I'd tell you right now, I couldn't agree more. I'll say this one more thing, Joe, on that point. When you're buying a flashlight, ask yourself one really important question. What batteries am I most likely to have in my house? Buy a flashlight that uses those batteries. The other day I was using a flashlight, Joe, running on AAA. What the fuck is that bullshit? A AAA battery? Give me a break. I want AA or I want D cell. I have those batteries in my house at all times. So when you're buying a flashlight, buy one for batteries you're gonna have in your house. Very good. Well, everybody,
good message.
Thank you. We are getting near the end of our show today. We've had a lot of fun with Miss Abysmal. Again, the album name, Mystery Dream. Find it online, Spotify, Amazon. Listen to it. It's a 9-song album. Super fun, super enjoyable, beginning to end. Put it on your car to driving around. It will be a lot of fun. I want to end with one question to Miss Abysmal, again, coming from Peter Thiel. This is a hard question, so take some time with it. The idea with this question is that it is a question that somebody could conceivably answer and come up with a novel business idea or a novel pursuit of some kind. And the question is as follows. What truth do you believe in that you have a hard time convincing others of?
Wait, okay. I'm already fucking up the quickly part, but is it supposed to be about music or like Miss
Anything.
Abysmal?
Anything at all. What is a truth you believe in? Yeah, what is a truth you believe in that you have a hard time convincing other people of? It can be about music. It can be about AA batteries. Maybe you love AAA battery flashlights. You'd be wrong, but maybe you do. It can be about anything that the truth you believe in, you have a hard time convincing other people of.
That everyone, I think it is highly beneficial to do yoga and meditate every day, and I think everyone should do that.
I agree, actually, with that one. And Joe, I believe you're also a big meditator as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I always try to be meditating.
Yes, very good. Well, everybody, wow, that was a lot of fun. Again, album, Mystery Dream, find it online, download, buy it today. A lot of fun to listen to. Joining us, Miss Abysmal. Thank you for joining us. This was a lot of fun. I hope you had a good time as well.
Thank you. I did. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, everybody. Well, that wraps up episode number 21. Find us online. We're on Twitter at roses_rhetoric. Of course, our website, www.rosesandrhetoric.com. Follow us on Joe's Instagram as well, at Jose4_Cuervo. His Twitter name at Jose4_Cuervo. And now the official Roses Rhetoric Instagram. Joe, tell us about the Roses and Rhetoric Instagram page.
Fresh Instagram just came to fruition this last week. Handle Roses_Rhetoric, just like Twitter. Check it out.
Very good. Very good, everybody. Well, we will see you all next time. I'm Jimmy Hackett signing up for Joseph Sanford. Until then, ciao.